連日ワールドシリーズへの期待を寄せる番組が多数放送されていますが、やはり今回のシリーズは歴史的に紐解いても珍しいようです。同じシリーズにこれだけ多くの MVP 受賞者が出場することは稀で、なおかつ期待のスラッガーが両リーグに分かれて雌雄を決するのは50年くらい遡らないとなさそうです。ワールドシリーズまであと2日と迫り、大谷翔平 vs アーロンジャッジの構図から MVP バトル、殿堂入りバトルの様相に現地放送も枠を広げている印象を感じます。今日も様々な角度からシリーズへの期待を分析する番組が放送されておりましたので、翻訳してお届けいたします。このチャンネルでは日本人メジャーリーガーに関する現地放送局の様子を翻訳してお届けしております。お見逃しのないよう今のうちにチャンネル登録をお願いいたします。
It's not hyperbole. This is one of the biggest superstar clashes in the history of the Fall Classic. Let's do a little digging in and go back to 1971. 4 active MVPs are on the field for the Orioles and Pirates, going 7 games in a great World Series. You saw Brooks Robinson, Frank Robinson, that's Boog Powell, that's Roberto Clemente. That is tied for the most MVPs in a World Series matchup ever, and the most recent time it has happened. That's it, 4. Until this year. This year's series will feature 5. Judge, Ohtani, Betts, Freeman, Stanton. If you widen it to players who played for each team this year, it's 6. That's Clayton Kershaw, who did pitch 30 innings for the Dodgers this season, and that's not counting Juan Soto, who hasn't won an MVP yet, but is likely to at some point. Here's another way of looking at it. These are the runs created leaders going back to 2018, Ohtani's first year in the United States, and Soto's rookie season. This is overall hitting volume. Freddie Freeman is actually the most productive hitter in baseball in that span. And 5 of the top 6 are in this World Series. Only Jose Ramirez of the Guardians crashes the party. This is over a 7-year span. Large sample. This is a major percentage of the offensive forces in the game in this series. So let's go to the quality of the contact of the hitters and the Statcast metrics. If you go by xWOBA, the expected weighted on base, that includes the contact, the velo, and the angle. The top 3 hitters in the game are, in order, Judge by a good margin, then Soto, then Shohei Ohtani. Now, this is where Mookie Betts wouldn't show up. He doesn't crush the ball like the others. He makes more contact. So let's go to another Statcast metric, get another player in. Simple hard hit percentage. This doesn't include swing and miss, so it's not always the best indicator of hitting. But we have to make an allowance since in these playoffs, Giancarlo Stanton is looking like a very different guy, dropping his K rate from 31 to 18% and slugging about 800. So here are the top hitters in hard hit percentage. Hard hit ball is over 95 miles per hour. Now, it's still the big 3. It's Judge, Shohei Ohtani, Juan Soto. And again, those 3 are at the very, very top. Then you've got Fernando Tatis, Kyle Schwarber, and then Giancarlo Stanton. Now, that version of Stanton, the one that we're seeing right now, less swing and miss, dramatically, almost cut in half. He's not only a dangerous hitter, these guys are the dangerous hitters, but he's a productive hitter as well. That changes the Yankee lineup quite a bit. So the old classic Yankees and Dodgers New York matchups, they're pretty good. Mantle, Berra, Rizzuto, Ford versus Robinson, Campanella, Snyder, Hodges, Pee Wee Reese. That's 9 Hall of Famers, 11 if you want to count a young Sandy Koufax and Don Drysdale on those staffs. Maybe this year's series doesn't get to 11, but the Yankees and Dodgers are once again featuring generational all-time talent. And if you're wondering, what has been the most star-studded Hall of Fame World Series? That would be the 1932 World Series. Ruth, Gehrig, 2 of the 9 Yankees. Bill Dickey on that club, too. The Cubs had Kai Kyler among their 4. This year's series, I don't think you can get more than 8. Those 6 might be what you call first ballot Hall of Famer. But again, a very good representation of all-time talent. On this showdown, we might just agree. It could happen here. But give me your most likely scenario. Not a prediction, but your general feeling of who might be better in this World Series.
Most likely scenario is that this is where the team out-homering the other team will actually come into play.
Well, then that's probably the New York team, right? Don't you think?
Whoever hits the most homers. I'm not saying
we don't know.
We don't know who's going to do it, but whoever out-homers the other team will win.
I think the Yankees have to outslug them. I think the Dodgers are more versatile. They're more baseball-y, as I said. They apply their bullpen a little better. What they did to the Mets sways me a little bit. If I have to say most likely scenario, it would be Dodgers are a hair better unless they get outslugged. What do you think?
Number one, I think the margin for error of both teams, I think it's going to be it's very small. It's going to be a long series. I think it's going to be a high-scoring series. Whoever gets the most innings out of their starting pitcher is going to win the series.
Okay, I only bring this up because
that's advantage Yankees right there.
Okay, I bring this up because I've heard broadcasters say this could be the first title for the Dodgers since a full season title since 1988, as if 2020 wasn't a real title. I hadn't thought that way until I kept hearing it. I don't think that way. Do you agree?
Yeah, I don't agree at all. I think it's a real title. I thought what they had overcome, I think we were in the most unique, bizarre season in the history of the game. And I thought that they had challenges there that other teams.
It's an expanded postseason tournament. Like, that's a World Series title. Like, it doesn't occur to me to say a full season World Series
title. They didn't
title.
have built-in off days, but not even that is the whole pandemic year and just the bizarre nature of that season. I thought it was really a really difficult World Series to win. So I look at it as a World Series.
It's definitely a real thing. Definitely a real thing. The only advantage that I feel like the Dodgers or any other big market team is, I think with the shorter season, it's slightly advantage to the bigger market team who has the more stars, because the likelihood of their stars being healthy when the postseason comes around, I think is significantly higher. So when you look at the starting rotation that the Dodgers had in 2020, it was their postseason. This is their normal rotation. Buehler, Kershaw, Gonsolin, to where you're in the position to where you can have Destin May and Urias bouncing back and forth from the bullpen game to a starting game. And right now, this is their concern.
They were 43-17. Like, if they had snuck in the last run and got into one of those, the 8th spot, there was 8 teams, I could see saying, well, they snuck in, that never would have happened. But they were getting into the playoffs, and they had to win the tournament. Anyway, we're in agreement on that.
That's legit, yeah.
All right, if Shohei Ohtani is thrown off the mound and he looks good and they're suddenly low on pitchers, would you be tempted?
He would have to ask for it. Shohei Ohtani would have to go to front office, go to Dave Roberts and say, hey, guys, I'm good. I want the ball. But I don't think it could be the nudge from the manager say, hey, just walking into the locker room, hey, how you feeling? You want to go? This has to be predetermined.
What if they do 2 bullpen days? Brazier has worked 6 innings every time out, and there's nothing left. Would you be tempted?
Well, I'd be tempted when you watch him pitch in the WBC if it's trying to close out a game. I'd certainly be tempted. But the reality of it is he's 13 months out post Tommy John. This is his 2nd Tommy John. So, like, the time frame is even longer to make sure that he's healthy. I mean, I don't know how. I don't think the Dodgers would ever put him in that position. Even if he said, I want to go, I don't think they would. But, hey, if you're in the 15th inning and you got a chance to win the World Series and he's it,
I've seen 18 innings at Dodger Stadium before.
You have.
It's possible. But you just can't. Like, I'm the same way as boy, be tempted, but you just can't.
You can't.
Right? Yeah.
Until you do.
Until you're like, hey, we're kind of out of guys here. Good to see you, fellas.
See you as well.
Getting closer and closer. Sometimes, things that are happening right now, you think, well, how great can it be? This one seems to be, no. This is going to line up, Dan, as an all-time great.
Before going on to the show, I kept thinking, my 42 years, Chris, have I ever seen a World Series that matches up quite like this? I don't think I can. I mean, it truly is a phenomenon. Great for our game.
Yep. What do you think?
I'm thinking 7 potential Hall of Famers. I mean, I think your breakdown was perfect, dead on, and that's not counting Kershaw, potentially Hall of Fame manager, and Dave Roberts. You don't know what this is going to turn into, but I think as far as star-studded players all on the field at the same time, in my time here, I haven't seen anything like this, and them being able to step up. And all these guys, they have trophy rooms that are filled up with all the awards that you would ever want for as a player. None of them have that World Series MVP, though. Juan Soto, you can argue maybe should have one, but nobody has one there. This is the moment where they should try to step up.
And it's all in the prime of their career, BK. I mean,
Mostly,
rarely you get
at their peaks, right.
Yeah.
A lot of times, even looking at 32 World Series, a lot of guys at the very end, they happen to be on the Cubs, that sort of thing. We had a run of Yankees-Red Sox that seemed to be like the ultimate rivalry. But again, they would meet in a league championship series or somewhere along the way, and then there'd be a World Series opponent afterwards, see if you could survive. I think that's the closest thing we get.
Yeah, you're right. There were star players on both of those rosters from top to bottom, and I think that's what made those games so riveting and so competitive, too.
Yeah, that's the closest thing. Again, that was an arms race as well. Yeah. This is kind of an arms race as well. So, I mean, everything. As far as money, baseball, ops, player development, all of it.
And putting them all on the same field, on the same team, especially when you think about the Dodgers of Mookie and Freddie. These guys, even Soto on the Yankee side, these guys have been stars and have gone to the World Series with different teams at different times in their career, and those guys were able to step up to the big stage for their team in those moments. So now putting those guys on one field, somebody's going to be hot. There's going to be a lot of action we're going to see.
All right, let's talk about, again, the starters have been named. Garrett Cole was named already. Jack Flaherty, last 16, had to sit twice. Can your ankle heal? He's had 6 days. Can that ankle get that much better?
I think when I read in between the lines of this right here, it's saying 100% go for game 1. He's trusting that for game 1, this is going to work out well for him, but not understanding what's going to happen within that game. He doesn't know if he's 100% game 2. That thing could flare up at any moment. This is the opportunity that I feel like Freddie is going to use to go and get his swing right. His swing hasn't been right in the postseason because he can't roll over that front ankle like he naturally wants to do, which is his natural hitting motion. So the fact that he's healthy enough now to go in the cage, actually work on the swing mechanics that he needs to work on to get his swing right, I think that's the most important thing for him right now.
Early on, when he first came back, it looked like he was still, like his presence alone and his ability to spray the ball, kind of like Anthony Rizzo now, right? If you can just hit singles, you're very productive. He does make a difference in the lineup, even hobbled, right?
Not the way he looked in the LCS, no, BK. I thought they were a better club when he wasn't playing.
Really?
Yeah, I thought he was really hobbled with his swing. I didn't think he had any explosion. I didn't think he could stay on plane whatsoever. It pained me because I think he's one of the best hitters in the game. And, Chris, I hope he's healthy enough because I think great players, your ankle a lot of times when you're playing defense.
Yeah, we were talking about this a few days ago on Tonight. There is a line to where you would always assume, hey, Freddie Freeman at 60%, 70% is better than anybody else. But that's not the case. There is a line to where if you're below that 70% threshold to where it's impacting every single aspect of your game to where you can't make plays on defense. You become a log jam when you're on the bases. You can't drive the ball. Then, if that's the case, it's better for you not to be out there.
No, your point's well taken. I think early on, I remember him hitting a shot to Fernando Tatis. He still was able to drive the ball. By his last couple of games, he really wasn't as effective. Now, this also affects things down the road as far as Miguel Rojas, who was the starting shortstop at the start of the playoffs for the Dodgers. We have to find out how physically he is. This is from Blake Harris. Dave Roberts, hopeful, but not certain Rojas will be on the World Series roster. Now, they ended up being able to cover for Rojas with Tommy Edman going there. They've got Kike, who can play center field and fill in. What do you make of the machinations and the ability to get Rojas back on the roster?
One, I don't think Rojas will be on the roster. When you have an abductor hernia situation, every movement pattern you have as a shortstop is that's the part of your body that you're moving. And so what's crazy to me about the roster, Chris, is that when you normally look at a roster, any roster, you have 2 catchers, you have your 5 infielders, you have your 4 or 5 outfielders. When you look at the Dodgers roster, you got 2 catchers, you got 3 infielders, you got 3 outfielders, then you have 4 what I call EVPs, everyday versatile players. I've never seen a postseason roster that's compiled that looks like that, where they have players that are capable of playing shortstop, other positions, and the outfield. It's just crazy.
Are we over, Rojas, though, is their starter, who's their best fielder. Edman was hot, but we're kind of making, thoughts that, well, Edman is going to stay hot. Edman is excellent, but does he stay hot? Or do you want Rojas?
I would trust Freddie's bum ankle at first base more so than I would trust an adductor strain at shortstop.
Yeah, okay.
The fact that Miguel Rojas is a shortstop and you're trusting his defense more so than you're trusting his bat, you have him out there to be an elite defensive shortstop. So where anytime I pulled a groin, pulled an adductor, this is not a moment. It's way too many games way too many plays that happen for a shortstop to where you're going to have to fire quickly. And if he's one step slower, it's no question in my mind that Tommy Edman would be a better option.
Yeah, he was smooth at shortstop.
Yeah, but I agree with you. I think they lose something with not having Rojas capable of playing shortstop. As good as Tommy has been, I think Rojas is a whole defensive grade above him defensively, so they lose something there.
If healthy, right. But it doesn't look like that's the case. Now, for the Yankees on their side, they're pitching rich comparatively to other ball clubs. They had Marcus Stroman on the roster in the League Championship Series. They didn't even have to use him. Now, can Nestor Cortes come back? Listen to Nestor and what he said about the World Series roster.
I definitely sat down with, a couple staff, a couple people, a couple of my agents, and my family, and obviously everything we weighed in. We even had a conversation last series in Cleveland, but I think the conversations have been really clear throughout the whole postseason, and we have weighed in the consequences, that this can lead up to. But if I have a ring and then a year off of baseball, then so be it.
There we go. That's the attitude. He is a free agent after next season. If he misses next year, it looks like a huge risk. He is a quality starter. You would figure he's not going to be starting or even tandem starting, right? But he's a left-hander that could come in. What do you make of this?
One, I do think he helps his bullpen. He's a tough matchup for left-hand hitters. He just gives you a really uncomfortable rhythm, timing look. BK, I'm torn on this. As a front office executive, man, it's hard putting together a roster if you think you're putting one of your players in position of getting hurt. I just
want to point out, you see the numbers there. The opponent's on base and slug against left-handed batters.
He's really good.
It's very low. Go ahead, Dan.
Yeah, so One, I have struggled putting him on a roster knowing that he's not 100% healthy. Number two, my experience with flexor strains, they always lead to surgery. Like, I haven't had a lot of luck in my career rehabbing players with flexor strains. Now, if it's a grade 1, maybe. If it's anything above that, it always leads to some kind of surgery. So, like, I'm really, this one, I'd have to have more information on, but like, I would never put a player in a position where I feel like I'm jeopardizing his long-term health. In this case, like, I don't know enough to know if I'm doing that.
Yeah, this is extremely concerning. I mean, when you hear the statements from Nestor, understanding that when he threw the bullpen, there were questions. He's faced live hitters a couple times right now, and things have gone well. But the speed of the game that's going to come with the World Series, you're naturally going to amp it up. And if the team feels like they're putting you in a situation to where you can go out there and legitimately get hurt, if there's a real concern, I know the level of fight showed the level of passion to where he wanted to prove his worth and be a part of this World Series team. And at this point, he has been a part of it, even without the few innings that he may have to pitch in this postseason. But is it as worth it to the Yankees to potentially lose him for an entire year as it is to Nestor Cortes for, you know, maybe a few at-bats against Shohei Ohtani, this is why this conversation is happening. It's solely for Shohei Ohtani. The fact that Shohei Ohtani is 2 for 12 off of Nestor Cortes, you feel like we don't have a Tanner Scott in our bullpen. Nestor Cortes, I feel like, is going to be the most realistic option on somebody who can really catch Shohei Ohtani off guard and bring that slider out, change his angles, really keep Shohei uncomfortable. I don't know if they have anybody else in their bullpen.
Mesa and Tim Hill.
Just not to the effect that Scott is. Yes, you do
Even
have.
for an AB? Like, Nestor's been over 120 innings, but like for an AB?
I agree. It could be big, but how much are you going to pay for that AB? That is the biggest concern.
I mean, certainly I want to win a World Series, and if a player's telling me I want to be on that roster and my medical team's going to have to green light this for me to do this. If my medical team tells me I don't think he's a healthy player, I would struggle to add him to a roster.
Game 1, Friday night of the World Series. You can see it on Fox. Yankees and Dodgers. Again, Friday night, a little after 8 o'clock Eastern time. Flaherty versus Garrett Cole, and what we hope will be an all-time World Series. Jason Stark has a great piece up in The Athletic right now on the historical importance of the World Series, so we'll put it in perspective there as well. Jason is back with us now. Jason, I know, first question, you asked this question. Can Ohtani Judge be Bird and Magic? I don't think people remember. I know the NBA is so big now. Before Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, the NBA with tape delay in the NBA Finals was just not that big, seemed dead in the water. Nobody cared, a dying league, and it elevated the entire league. What can Ohtani Judge do for baseball?
Well, the important thing to remember here, Brian, is we don't get these meetings of the two biggest stars in the sport in the World Series like the NBA does, like the NFL does. I mean, the Super Bowl is always a matchup of marquee quarterbacks, right? And it felt for a while there like LeBron and Steph Curry were going to play in the NBA Finals every year. This doesn't happen in our sport. And I actually wanted to run this by you because I spent a lot of time on it. I went looking, trying to find the last time we had the two biggest stars in baseball meeting in a World Series in their MVP prime. I mean, it's a really short list. Yeah. These were the only 4 I found that I thought were comparable. Schmidt and Brett, Gibson, McClain, Bob Gibson had the 1.12 ERA. Danny McClain won 30 that year. Male and Aaron in 1957. Ted Williams, Stan Musial in 1946. Curious what you think. How does that compare to this?
Yeah, it's close. The only that came to mind was, 62. You had Willie Mays, who did not play great in that World Series against Mantle and the Yankees. Maybe Mantle is a little post-prime at that point. But anytime the Yankees would have DiMaggio, Mantle, against whoever, and it was Aaron or Mays, yes. But then it seemed a little more controllable. So overall, star power. Again, 5 or 6 former MVPs, 6 if you count Kershaw in these clubs, including the 2 that are for this year, right? So how does that stack up historically?
Yeah, I was shocked by this. You'd think we've seen many World Series where 5 MVPs took the field. If you thought that, though, you'd be wrong. This will be the first World Series in history with 5 MVPs playing every night, basically. And to even find the last World Series with 4 MVPs, you've got to go back over 50 years to 1971. It's hard to remember any World Series where you had this much firepower on both sides. Like those 5 guys, Ryan, one of them won the MVP award every year since 2016, except for 2019.
Wow.
So I think the point is it's not just star power, it's enduring star power.
Now, I know you like this stuff. I put up earlier, the 1932 World Series had 13 Hall of Famers led by Ruth and Gehrig. You keep tabs on these things. This World Series has what? How many? 7, 8? How many can you go to?
Well, I'm in the camp that believes that Giancarlo Stanton's going to be a Hall of Famer, so I think that gets you to 8. I'm not sure where you are on Stanton after his Mr. October show, but he's going to have the big October resume and 500 homers, an MVP award. That's a Hall of Fame player. Freddie Freeman's on a clear Hall of Fame path. Shohei's the greatest player of his time, maybe any time. Mookie's going to be a Hall of Famer.
Yep.
Juan Soto, what he's done at age 25.
Yep.
Everybody that does that gets the Hall of Fame.
Yep.
That's 8.
Yep. The main thing here, too, is like that run in the 50s, Yankees and Dodgers, they were the best teams year after year, and they had those frequent matchups. In the era of the big tournament, we're just not going to get this, are we? Or this seems to be the anomaly, something we should really look for.
レブロンとカリーの戦いはまさに大谷選手 VS ジャッジ選手の戦いと比較すると、ポジションは違えどビッグネーム同士の戦いという意味では非常に分かりやすい例えでした。ヤンキースの選手たちもロサンゼルスへ出発し、いよいよという感じになってきましたね。今回は少し固めの番組をお送りしましたが、今日はもう1本後ほど投稿いたしますのでお楽しみに。それでは次回の動画でお会いしましょう。さようなら。